Good morning, everyone. Hello, thank you. I thought, is my microphone turned off? No. Good morning, everyone. And welcome to Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. And those of you online, thank you also for being here with us this morning. You are very welcome wherever you're watching from. I'm Reverend Mary Marie Shelton. I'm the community spiritual leader here at Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. And we are a spiritual community that is part of a larger organization whose vision is to create a world that works for everyone. Now, we're quite clear that we don't know exactly how to do that, but our intention is to begin within, to allow ourselves to be transformed within into that greater acceptance, that greater love, that greater wholeness, because only if we can do it within can we expect the larger world to evolve into that as well. So we begin with ourselves as a microcosm of the whole. And the way that we start out Sunday mornings is by making sure that everybody is welcome. So I want to invite you to stand up and walk around and welcome each other. Introduce yourself to anybody you don't know. Welcome people back. And just generally make each other welcome. And those of you at home, what can we do to help you make yourself welcome? Have another cup of coffee or tea. Just notice what a beautiful day it is, even if it's overcast where you are like it is here. Give yourselves a hug. We'll be right back to sing in just a moment. Well, this morning we have our good friend Daniel Nahmad on our music videos to lead us in song. And, you know, he has sold over 100,000 CDs, and his music has been performed all over the place, including big things on television that we've watched: the Super Bowl, American Idol, The Today Show, The Voice, Saturday Night Live. His songs have been performed. He hasn't performed in all those places, but his songs have been performed in all those places. So we always enjoy Daniel. He's quite a character. You'll notice he doesn't talk as much today. He must have been in a hurry. So please stand and join us for Witness. We have sung this song with him before, so you'll probably recognize it.
Good morning, Golden Gate. It's Daniel Nahmad. Ready to sing something with me? While you admire the lava lamp over my shoulder that my boy just bought me as a present with money that he earned. Oh my God. Here we go. Song called Witness. This day is a witness to my sacred purpose, to all that I'm meant to be. Sing it again. This day is a witness to my sacred purpose, to all that I'm meant to be.
This is a little thicker.
Letting it in, letting it flow, letting it go where it will go. Letting the power of your presence show the way. Letting it in, letting you know, I'm letting you lead, that I might follow, being my holy purpose, to all that I'm born to be. Again. This soul is a witness to my holy purpose, to all that I'm born to be.
Now go back to the quick part.
Letting it in, letting it flow, letting it go where it will go, letting the power of your presence show the way. Letting it in, letting you know, I'm letting you lead, that I might follow, being a witness to your presence every day. This life is a witness to my rightful purpose, to all that I've come to be. One more time. This life is a witness to my rightful purpose, to all that I've come to be. And I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love for all my life. Sing it again. I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love for all my life. Again. I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love for all my life. One last time. Oh, I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love. I will bear witness to your love for all my life. For all my life. Nice job. Good morning.
You may be seated. So now that we've said hello and we've put our voices out both individually and together, now that we are joined as a community, we're going to go within together, using each other's consciousness to anchor us more deeply in the presence. And so I'm inviting our morning platform practitioner, Leslie Giannetti, up to pray us in right now.
Turning within to our sacred center, I recognize one power and one presence. There is a power in the universe for good, and we can use it with our thoughts. Each one here is a unique, individualized expression of that one power. That magnificent all in all is forever seeking greater self-expression by means of each one. It is the joy, it is the love, it is the light of the universe, moving through each one every moment and opening to it and allowing it to find its rhythm within, always manifests in complete wholeness and happiness, health, and absolute truth. So I call forth a great blessing on this power in today's service through Reverend Mary, through every mind, through every heart, as there is only one life, joining everything to itself, assimilating everyone into perfect alignment for the truth, for clarity, and for a celebration of the infinite life itself. And I give thanksgiving in advance for what will be revealed and known and experienced in today's service. And I release my word to the law of mind, which embraces my word as a brand new creation for the greater good, and so it is.
There's one power, invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power, indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth. As simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angel's wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. We speak so many languages, different clothing, different colors, different names. But different is only dangerous when we forget that in the heart we're all the same. And we'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit or Jesus or Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem or heaven's door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul or it's your sign. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, yeah. It's the moment of creation. It's an everlasting peace. It's the freedom of forgiveness. It's the sweetness of release. It's the joy of inspiration. It's the sunshine on your face. It's the birthright of all nations. It's the boundlessness of space. It's the beauty of a baby. The serenity of sleep. It's the anger we abandon for its love that's most deep. It's one power. Whoa. What we are is it's the power of the love that lives forever in you and me. It's the power of the love in you and me.
Mm. Very nice, Daniel. Mm. Just listening to him brought all these things to mind, all these memories and ideas and things, when he said the beauty of a baby, I have a new grandson. But in thinking about little Barrett, who we call little Barrett and his 17-year-old brother Toby, and my 44-year-old son Luke, I am so reminded of the baby, of each one of them experiencing that, when they were tiny. When my son was small, I remember going out to the car once and trying to unlock the door so we could get in. I could get him in his car seat and we could get going. And I was struggling with it because, the click that you're expecting to hear. And then I realized the door wasn't locked. I was trying to unlock a door that was already unlocked. And this is what we do most of our lives, really. We fail to recognize that we have within us an amazing power, an amazing capacity. But we haven't been raised to know that because, generally speaking, our cultures of the world are kind of oblivious to that. And in fact, it works better to sort of emphasize the opposite of that in order to use psychology to get us to buy things. Because really, if we knew our power, we wouldn't be craving stuff because we would realize that whatever we need is already within us. And what we really genuinely want to experience more of is that divine presence of love, not only within ourselves, but in our interactions with other people. And when we have that, we can overlook a lot of other stuff, or get through a lot of other stuff, or by our very nature of being connected and attuned to that presence, to that power within us, we attract to us the stuff that we wanted or needed without a lot of extra effort and thought. Instead, we do some other things that can help us learn about the power that we have within us if we understand what we're seeing and what we're doing. So this month is, this year, our overall theme with Centers for Spiritual Living is a grand rising. Every time that we have a new understanding, a new revelation, a new insight into life or ourselves or a particular interaction with someone or something that's going on with us physically, every time we have a new insight, it's like the sun just came up, a light went on, there's a grand rising. So the idea of this as a year-long theme is the idea that a grand rising can happen at any moment or at every moment. And this month, we're talking about power to the people. I remember this song from like the 1970s, Power to the People. And it was kind of a protest song. But really now when we speak about power to the people, it's the recognition that as we approach our national election, we people of the United States, like many democratic countries, we have this incredible power to express our preferences, our desires, our opinions, our thoughts with our votes, but also in the town hall meetings and all the other things that are available to people with their elected representatives in order to go and hear and learn and make those decisions. It's a huge gift of freedom. It's also tremendous responsibility. Would you agree? There's a lot of stuff, particularly in California, there's a lot of stuff to read. They send you tons of information. Everybody's sending information. You have to decide whose information is trustworthy or accurate, or whose is more trustworthy or accurate, or what appeals to us more. It's a lot. It's a lot to pay attention to. It's a lot of responsibility and freedom and duty, all of that in one. And in order for us to exercise that power that's given to us and to exercise it well, it becomes important for us to pay attention to all that stuff and to actually think about it. And so what I've been talking about in looking at this power that we have, this power to the people, is now coming back to our recognition of who we are in science of mind and saying, are we using our power for good? Do we even know what it is? A woman wrote into Reader's Digest with this story about her child. She said, as my 5-year-old and I were heading to McDonald's one day, we passed a car accident. Now, usually when we see something terrible like that, we say a prayer for whoever might be hurt. And so I pointed and said to my son, we should pray. And from the back seat, I heard in his earnest voice, dear God, please don't let those cars block the entrance to McDonald's. Are we using our power for good, or whose good are we using it for? You know, we recognize the power of something, but we may not fully recognize it. Like this little fellow, it immediately occurred to him that this was a problem that could interfere with his desire, his plan. And so the prayer was about fixing that so it didn't interfere with his plan. Have you ever prayed a prayer like that? You know, please let this happen. Please don't let that happen. Please make such and such. You know, those kind of prayers, I think, become this human thing that we do. I think that when there's a disaster or we're really worried about somebody we love, even those who feel like atheists can find themselves in prayer because there's nothing else available that they know to do, yeah? So the question becomes, what power? What is the power that we're talking about? And how do we use it for good? You know, in fairy tales, it's about using your power for good and not evil. But there are gradations to how we use power. And what we want to recognize in science of mind is that that creative power is actually active all the time, 24/7. It doesn't take a break, it doesn't rest, it doesn't get tired. It has no self-awareness, it just knows how to do what it does. I often give the example of a toaster. You know, if you put the bread in the toaster, you push the button down. Your toaster does not have self-awareness. It can't say, I don't feel like doing this today. It's always connected to the power, and it knows how to do what it is that it does. That's what it knows. It doesn't know what it is or that it does. It just does it, right? Automatically. So the creative power of the universe is like that. You could put anything into your toaster and push the button down, and it would try to toast it. Whether it's a cassette, a spoon, jam, or a piece of bread, it doesn't matter. You put it in the toaster and push the button down, the toaster's going to go to work on that. It doesn't reject what might be harmful to you or somebody else. It simply acts upon what it gets. And that's what the creative law does. It acts upon what it gets, or I might even say what it takes. It acts upon what's there. And we're never completely blank. So the creative law is acting through us all the time, and most of the time we're not really aware of that. We're not really conscious of it. We're not really mindful that that's taking place. Would you agree? I mean, even for most of us that want to be conscious and use this creative law effectively, we don't remember that it's happening and we have a choice about that. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote in The Science of Mind, the will is directive, but not creative. Will is the conscious, directive power of the intellect, and as such has a very important place in the creative order, but in no case is it to be used as though it could force things to happen, because we don't need to put that kind of effort into it. So the power that we have is pretty profound. We don't give ourselves enough credit for the power that we actually have. We don't own it and take responsibility for it and recognize that we have a duty to learn about it and use it well, because it's going to use us all the time anyway. It doesn't go to sleep when we're not consciously using it. So the first thing that we have is the power of choice. What do I want to put this focus of power on? What is important to me? Who do I care about? What world do I want to see? What is it I want to bring forward in myself? How do I want to grow? We have the power of choice. The choice is about what do we put our attention on? What do we focus on? And that's where the willpower comes in. We choose, yes? And then by coming back to that choice, by coming back to that again and again, we accumulate power there. We put our attention on something, and the creative power rushes to that. Then as soon as we shift away from that to something else, the creative power goes, oh, okay. And so it moves to something else, and that gets neutralized or falls apart. Or maybe we think of something contradictory to that, and it falls apart, and nothing manifests as a result. Are you with me here so far on this? Somebody, Ernest Holmes wrote a book called Questions and Answers on the Science of Mind. And one question is, relative to one another, what parts do will and imagination play in treatment or in prayer? The form of prayer we use is called spiritual mind treatment. And the answer was, each is just as important as the other. When the imagining faculty is used in the treatment of illness or in harmony, it recognizes only the true body of perfection, which the perfect life has made. The imaging faculty of the mind is creative. It builds and molds. He's talking about the subconscious part of our mind, not the conscious part. So the conscious part chooses and focuses. Then the subconscious, which is the active creative law within us, it goes to work on what we're focused on and what we bring that attention back to again and again. Remember, the creative law doesn't judge and it doesn't choose. It doesn't have the ability to do that. So whatever our attention is on over and over again, whatever our attention is on with emotion over and over again, the creative law automatically gravitates to that and latches onto it because that's where our attention is. That's where our repeated attention is. That's where our emotion is. You can see how this may go wrong, right? He goes on to say, the imagining faculty of the mind is creative. It builds and molds. It makes the mental form, conceives the desire consciously or unconsciously. But maintaining this recognition of perfection, maintaining this recognition of perfection is the work of the will. Without direction by the will, imagination becomes mere daydreaming. So we choose what we want to focus on, and we can dream over that repeatedly. Unfortunately, how many times has somebody hurt our feelings that we go back and turn that over and over again in our mind, building up a case inside ourselves for why they were wrong and why we are right about feeling hurt or frustrated, how justified we are in that. We go back to that again and again. And every time we go back to it now, the wounding that's happening is not coming from the other person. It's coming from us. We're reinforcing that again and again and again. We're making it more real. We're giving it more power. Not because we intend to do that, but because we operate ignorantly of how the law follows us. It follows our directive. Now, we might think, and certainly a lot of people would support this idea, that is just automatic, that we don't have a choice about that, that that's just what we do as human beings, and we shouldn't be punished for that by the creative law. And now we can build up a whole case about how this isn't fair, and make it more and more unfair in our experience by putting our attention there. Because the creative law is going to multiply that thing that we put our attention on. Remember, it's like the toaster. It doesn't care what you put in. It's just going to give you toast. So if you want toasted misery and unhappiness, here you go. If you want toasted lack and illness, there's plenty of that. We are creative beings because of this creative law in us. We're always creating and producing. We will always create and produce more. I like to say the only thing that we're capable of producing as human beings is more, is abundance. And we always have then the possibility of creating more what? More love, more happiness, more well-being, more vitality, more joy, more fear, more suspicion, more doubt, more pain, more anger? Which are we putting our repeated attention on? The creative law acts on that. It doesn't have the power of discernment. That isn't what it does. So there is one story in the book of Matthew, but there are other versions of something similar in other books of the Gospels, where this happens, something like this happens with Jesus while he was saying these things. So he'd been teaching. And then it says, a synagogue leader came and knelt before him. My daughter has just died. Now, it's a big deal that this guy is a synagogue leader who would come to Jesus, who is a teacher, a rabbi, but not a synagogue leader. So the synagogue leader comes to him and he says, my daughter has just died, but come and place your hand on her and she will live. Now, we might think of that as superstition. If we didn't know the story was about Jesus, we might think, well, you know, he thinks a lot of this guy, that he thinks he's going to touch her and she's going to come back to life. But without question, Jesus gets up and goes with this man along with his disciples, so whoever else was there. And while he's on the way, it says, suddenly a woman who had suffered from bleeding for 12 years, imagine, came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. Just that much. And she said to herself, if only I touch his cloak, I'll be healed. Now, in one story, not in this version of Matthew, it says that he felt the power go out of him and he turned and said, who touched me? He turns to her in the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus turned and saw her. Take courage, daughter, he said. Your faith has healed you. Not I have healed you. Your faith has healed you. And the woman was cured from that very hour. The power that was enacted was in her. The reason it was enacted is because she was able to have faith in him, faith in something, that this healing was possible. And having that huge faith in that moment that allowed her to actually do that resulted in that change, and he acknowledged it. And then he went on to the house of the synagogue leader, and he saw the flute players and the noisy crowd. Everybody was there doing their mourning. Go away, he told them. The girl is not dead, but asleep. And they laughed at him. After the crowd had been put outside, Jesus went in and took the girl by the hand, and she got up. And the news about this spread throughout the region. Also, in other versions, it says that he says to the father, in one version, he just says to the father, go home, your faith has healed your daughter. The idea that belief, just the belief, sets a power into motion. Now, you can imagine that a woman who has suffered for 12 years with hemorrhaging is pretty desperate to find something. And she'd heard about him, and somehow she believed that he could help her. So she went to him. This synagogue leader knew the stories of what Jesus had done, and so he went to him. If you say the word. There's a story in one of the Gospels about a military man who comes to him and says, my daughter is very ill, but just say the word. I'm a man of power, and I'm used to being able to give orders. I say to one, he goes. I say go, and he goes. I say come, and another one comes. He said, so I recognize that you have the power. So just say the word, and I know my daughter will be healed. And Jesus says, go home. Your faith has saved her. The recognition that he could acknowledge the power of somebody else's faith, and that acknowledgement was enough for them to anchor in that truth and allow it to be so for them. You know, it isn't just somebody that we have faith in who is positive. We can also develop faith in somebody whose message is not so positive and believe them. And then we begin to come into alignment with more and more experiences that look like that. So if we admire someone, if we respect someone, and they have an opinion or they're very convinced of something, we may surrender our own knowing by doubting it and come into alignment instead with what they're so adamant about, what they insist upon. I try to, on Sundays, sometimes say, by the way, this is the Gospel of Mary. You don't have to agree with any of this. Because I recognize that if I'm standing up here, some people might assume that I know everything and whatever I say is true. I know none of you would fall for that, but some people do. And so it's important to recognize that just because somebody stands up in front of a bunch of other people doesn't mean that they've got it all figured out. Ram Dass said once that he was talking about channeling, people doing channeling. And he said, now, if somebody says something wise to me and I recognize it as wise, then I don't care who they are or what the story is or if they just made it up. If it's wise, I'm interested. But he said, I think it's important to be aware that just because someone doesn't have a body doesn't make them wise. So those who would give over to, a channeler or a psychic, we have to understand that human beings in and out of the body are not necessarily all-knowing, right? And so this person doesn't necessarily know more than we do. It's then on us to find out, to look into it, rather than to just swallow whatever it is because they've said it. And maybe the reason we do that with things that scare us is because whatever they've said resonates a little with something we're afraid of. Oh, see, this person thinks so too. Then our fear gets a little greater. It gets a little more anchored. We've built onto it some. Ernest Holmes, our founder, also said the negative use of the creative power of thought, then, is a very real thing, and indeed is at the root of all our troubles. And while we persist in believing that evil is as real as good, we shall experience the evil in which we believe. While we persist in thinking and acting as though limitation were the law of life, we shall continue in bondage. I think that probably all of us as human beings, no matter how much we've learned or studied or grown, we have those places. As long as we're living beings, we have those places in consciousness where we feel doubtful, we feel uncertain, we feel vulnerable or afraid. And the tendency is for us to get triggered in those areas. And then rather than taking hold of that and recognizing it as what it is and reasserting the power within us to make another choice, we can get lost in the weeds of that doubt or that fear. So we wind up forgetting that our words and our thoughts have power. The resonance, the vibration of those. The reason that an EKG can be measured on the outside of the body without having to open somebody up to check their heart on the inside, the reason that can be monitored on the outside is because the vibration of the heart is so strong, it can be measured on the outside of the body. But do we think that that vibration, that resonance, only goes as far as our skin? No. It continues out more subtly everywhere around us. It continues to move out from us. Now, every thought we think has a vibration to it. It's very subtle compared to our words, but it has a vibration to it. Every word we speak has a more powerful vibration to it. If we speak together, or if we sing together, we create a larger vibration. And so every one of these vibrations that we're putting out there affects other minds, other brains, other thoughts. We may not even realize that we are affected by everybody in this room. All right, now for this moment, I want all of you to think of a pink elephant. Your pink elephant may have stripes, it may have polka dots, it may just be plain pink, it could be light pink, it could be fuchsia. It might be happy or sad. It might have its trunk up or down. It might be dancing or sitting down or standing still or standing on one foot. But everybody's thinking of a pink elephant. Now, it's very dangerous. Don't think of a pink elephant. Don't. Stop. Stop it right now. How easy is that to actually do once that image is in your head, right? It's the elephant in the room. Boom, it's right there. So when a thought has been introduced, in order for us to shift away from a thought that makes us uncomfortable or gives us fear or doubt or pain, we literally have to choose a different image, a different thought. We have to go looking for it. We have to actively exercise it. We have to repeat it to shift our attention away, right? So think of a flying squirrel. How many of you thought of Rocky and Bullwinkle? A few. You have to be old enough to think of Rocky and Bullwinkle, but think of a flying squirrel, right? Now, how many of you were still consumed with the elephant when I said think of a flying squirrel? No? So you might have to think of more than a flying squirrel. You might have to think of a whole army of flying squirrels. Or you might find that you're obsessing over the elephant. Okay, the elephant is the thing that you're still upset about. You're still upset about this pink elephant. You're still wondering if you should have had stripes rather than polka dots. Whatever it is, these are silly examples, but this is what we do. So I'm making silly examples so it becomes easier for us to identify the stuff we do ourselves with things that we obsess over. They're probably no more important than a polka dotted elephant, really, but to us, they're very important. Every hurt that we have, we experience as maximal unless we wind up with something to compare it to. You know, I have a bunion that's really bothering me. I've got to go see a foot doctor about this bunion. All right, now, is that more or less important that somebody in Gaza whose house has been bombed into smithereens? Well, I think their house, but this bunion is really bothering me. You see how, whatever it is, it's hard to take on the level of importance of something that we're not directly experiencing ourselves in that moment. Something personal seems more important to us. And we get so lost in what's personal and important to us that we don't realize we've gotten out into the weeds. You know, we're totally distracted by something that really, in the long scheme of things, is not a big deal. So when we listen to, which voice are we going to listen to? Maybe the most compelling voice is the negative one because it's saying all kinds of stuff that we're already nervous about. And it's giving us all kinds of examples that get us all fired up and mad, and we haven't heard anything else. That's all we're hearing. That's all we're focused on is that. Meanwhile, the angel over here is going, well, that's not the whole story. That's not entirely true. There's more information that you can have. Would you like it? Well, I'm really distracted by this bunion over here. This is really, I can't listen right now. Maxwell Maltz, in his book Psychocybernetics, he's a plastic surgeon, or was a plastic surgeon, a doctor. He wrote this story about influence. He says, I performed a cosmetic operation on a Mr. Russell's lower lip for a very modest fee, under the condition that he must tell his girlfriend that the operation had cost him his entire life savings. His girlfriend had no objection to his spending money on her, and she insisted that she loved him, but she said she could never marry him because of his too large lower lip. However, when he told her and proudly exhibited his new lower lip, her reaction was what I had expected, but not what Mr. Russell had. She became angry, called him a fool for having spent all his money, and advised him in no uncertain terms that she had never loved him and never would, and that she had played him for a sucker while he had money to spend on her. However, she went further. In her anger and disgust, she also announced that she was placing a voodoo curse upon him. Now, Mr. Russell and his girlfriend had both been born on an island in the West Indies where voodoo was practiced. His family had been well-to-do. His background was one of culture, and he was a college graduate, and yet, when in the heat of anger his girlfriend cursed him, he felt vaguely uncomfortable, but did not think too much about it. However, he remembered and wondered when a short time later he felt a strange, small, hard bump on the inside of his lip. A friend who knew of the voodoo curse insisted that he see a Dr. Smith, who promptly assured him that the bump inside his mouth was the feared African bug, which would slowly eat away all his vitality and strength. Mr. Russell began to worry and look for signs of waning strength. He was not long in finding them. He lost his appetite and his ability to sleep. I learned all this from Mr. Russell when he returned to my office several weeks after surgery. My nurse didn't recognize him, and no wonder. The Mr. Russell who had first called upon me had been a very impressive individual, slightly too large lip and all. Slightly too large lip. He stood about 6'4", a large man with the physique of an athlete and the bearing and manner that bespoke of an inner dignity and gave him a magnetic personality. The very pores of his skin seemed to exude vitality. The Mr. Russell who now sat across the desk from me had aged at least 20 years. His hands shook with tremor. His eyes and cheeks were sunken. He had lost perhaps 30 pounds. The changes in his appearance were all characteristic of the process which medical science calls aging. After a quick examination of his mouth, I assured Mr. Russell that I could get rid of the African bug in less than 30 minutes, which I did. The bump was a small bit of scar tissue from his operation. I removed it, held it in my hand, and showed it to him. The important thing is, he saw the truth and believed it. He sighed with relief, and there was an almost immediate change in his posture and expression. Several weeks later, I received a nice letter from Mr. Russell with a photograph of him and his new bride. He had gone home and married his childhood sweetheart. The man in the picture was the first Mr. Russell. He had grown young again overnight. A false belief had aged him 20 years. The truth had not only set him free of fear and restored his confidence, but had actually reversed the aging process. If you could have seen Mr. Russell as I did, both before and after, you would never again entertain doubts about the power of belief, or that an idea, accepted as true from any source, can be as powerful as hypnosis. I love this story because it lets us know that we choose. We may not always be conscious of it, but we choose what we're going to believe. Now, when we think about other people, I remember Mary Mannon Morrissey talking about somebody and saying they did not have safe passage through her mind. In other words, in her mind, when she thought of that person, there was kind of an attack energy. This was an enemy. This was somebody she didn't like. This was somebody who had behaved badly toward her, whatever it was. And she recognized that she had to change her mind about that person if she was going to have peace. It wasn't about them. It was about her. And so we choose, a lot of times without awareness, what we're going to put our attention on. We get lost in something that has influenced us from somebody else. When we worry, for example, about a person that we love, we're generally not joyfully and peacefully anticipating great good for them. We're thinking about all the things that could go wrong, all the things that might be bad, everything that could be happening at this moment. We're essentially, in our minds, creating a world for them that is a disaster. That's how we worry. So when we do that, we focus repeatedly on what it is that we fear rather than what it is that we want for that person. It's easy to get into that because we've done it so much in our lives, it comes almost automatically to us, right? We focus repeatedly on what we fear. So we're using our own creative power, that massive power that is everywhere and within us as well. We're using it negatively. We're not using it for good. We're actually creating, as potentially real in our mind's eye, the opposite of what we actually want to be experiencing. So when that happens, we are unintentionally anchoring and strengthening an idea. And that can lead to unhappy manifestations in our own experience and in the world. When we think of another person and we worry about them, if they are also worried about themselves in that same way, we're adding to the power of that by thinking of them like that. I try to encourage people when they think of a loved one they're worried about to see them as grounded and happy and responsive to their own guidance. To see them that way instead of in the way that we're fearing and worrying about. Because if neither of those things has happened yet, why not put our attention on the greater good that we'd like to see for them rather than the disaster that we're afraid they're going to bring about in their lives? Are you with me here? Is this making sense? It's not easy to do. Worrying seems to be easier. Ernest Holmes once said the human race seems to have this morbid tendency to focus on the negative. You know, it's like the train wreck, you just squirrel. You've got to pay attention to that thing. And so in order for us then to use this creative power for good, we actually have to practice using our creative power for good to bless others in prayer, to be generous with those who are around us by not being afraid that we're not going to have enough, but by being willing to share with those who are around us or offer a smile or some comment of kindness, a compliment, an encouragement, to see the good in something. We were at a dance performance over the weekend, Amanda and I, and you know what I find, and maybe it's because my undergraduate degree was in theater, and I did a lot of analysis of performances because I had to write reviews and stuff for part of my educational process, that I have a tendency to look at performances from a certain critical standpoint sometimes. If I can lose myself in something, great. Then I can suspend disbelief like nobody's business and get right into that. But if I dislike something, somebody's performance, it's really hard to shift out of wanting to enumerate all the things that are wrong with that. As if by demonstrating that I could see all these things that were wrong with it, it made me somehow smarter, or I have no idea. But the compulsion to do that, does that ever happen to you with anything? Whatever you're very good at, whatever you're very experienced at in the world, your tendency might be like mine, that when you experience that, when you look at that, when you see that, you can pick out what's great, and you can also pick out what shouldn't be there, or what took it off course. My son has worked construction for many, many years. He's a foreman and an instructor for a kind of Habitat for Humanity organization now. And so if he walks into somebody's house, he notices things I would never notice. And sometimes they really bug him, because that's what he knows how to look at. And the difficulty with that perspective is that we can miss whatever the gift is that's there for us. I have to go back now and think about those dance performances and say, I was there for a reason. So what was in those performances for me? What was the gift that I overlooked? I'll have to think about that. Because in order to make this change, it requires our awareness that a change is available and that we need to make it, and we have to engage the willingness to actually practice. This requires practice. We need to repeat it again and again. There is power in that repetition. You know, when Mr. Russell was worried about his lip, he didn't just think about it once. He worried about it all the time. He would go look at it, you know, in the mirror and think about that. Was it getting bigger? How was he feeling? Well, he didn't sleep very well last night. It must have to do with this, you know. And this was a result of a curse, which means maybe it gets worse. You know, maybe it spreads to other parts of his body. His mind is now going off on a whole creative attention thing that has nothing to do with this little tiny dot of scar tissue, and yet it's affecting him as if it does. So it isn't necessarily that what we believe is literally then true for us. It's just that our life becomes as if it were literally true for us, and it seems so because of that. So when we want to shift, then we want to bring our attention to something else. It's like the flying squirrel and the pink elephant. You have to literally think, okay, how else can I think about this? What's another point of view about this? Or if I were to just assume that there was some kind of good for me in this moment that scares me, what good could I pull out of this? What good could I claim from this? Or is the good that I want in my ability to stand up and say to this worry, to this upset, no, no. I've gone down this road before, and I know where it goes, and I am not going there again. And then what can I shift to? That we have the ability to say, no, I am not going down that road again. It does not work. So as compelling as it seems to me, as much as it's my habit, whenever this comes up, to go down that road, I'm not going there. I'm going to shift to something else. Now, if I'm having a hard time shifting, maybe what I want to do is put on a piece of music that I really love, that I can sing and dance to, or go to a movie, or telephone a friend and talk about something else that we both really like. Or go for a walk and just focus on bird song, or people walking their dogs. See how many different dogs you can say hello to on a walk, how many different dog names you can learn. I tend to remember the dogs' names rather than the people. I'm sure that's not good. But, you know, whatever it is that can move us to a different place, and every time that thing comes up, we just find something to move us to a different place. Just for now, as if it's a 12-step program. Just, okay, for this moment, I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to do this instead. For this moment, I'm not going to condemn that or find fault with it. For this moment. Next time I might not be as good, but for this moment, right now, I'm going to do this. And we use that practice in the now moment whenever it comes up. That worry is for later. This is what I'm going to do right now. Can I do something else about this right now instead of going over here? A few more things from Ernest Holmes. I love this. There is a real you, which lives in a real God, and the two of you are one. To realize this is to understand your relationship with the divine presence, to realize that the law of God is written in your own mind, to make available to you a power that can meet every need. And in this thing called you, he writes, you rob no person when you discover your own good. You limit no person when you express a greater degree of livingness. You harm no one by being happy. You steal from no one by being prosperous. You hinder no person's evolution when you consciously enter into the kingdom of your good and possess it today. Your thought, operating through the law of life, can meet your need, convert fear into faith, loss into gain, failure into success. Act as though you already had dominion over evil. Refuse to entertain images of fear. Know that good is the only power there is. And I think not only do we not harm anyone else by doing that, we create a resonance that is thereby also available for them, because it doesn't stop with us. The resonance of those beliefs and those words continue to vibrate out into the atmosphere all around us. And somebody that's like this close to flipping over into that greater good might receive that slight vibration and just have a moment of courage to go there. And that could change their entire life. It could be from a conversation with you, and you don't even have to be talking about this stuff. So we have to practice changing our mind. And maybe one way to do that is to make sure that we have something uplifting that every day we nourish ourselves with. We may have books that are sacred readings to us. It might be poetry. It might be sacred scripture from any of the world's great faith traditions. It might be fiction. There's something that is enlivening, encouraging, uplifting that we resonate with. It can be music. Whatever it is, we need a little time every day for that, because we certainly spend enough time immersed in all that other stuff throughout the day. So I want to end with this reminder from Joseph Campbell's interview with Bill Moyer. He said, you must have a room or a certain hour or so a day where you don't know what was in the newspapers that morning, you don't know who your friends are, you don't know what you owe anybody, you don't know what anybody owes to you. This is a place where you can simply experience and bring forth what you are and what you might be. This is the place of creative incubation. At first, you may find that nothing happens there, but if you have a sacred place and use it, something eventually will happen. Let's practice. That's what we're here for, really, is to practice. And maybe the most important thing for us to practice is just love. At every moment, there's an opportunity to give love. So I want you to close your eyes and imagine that you are actively now sending love to somebody sitting near you. Just imagine that you're sending that love. You're wrapping up that person in love. You're wishing them well. And so let's stay in this place now. Let's anchor this idea in prayer. God is all there is. Period. Stop. No exceptions. Everywhere. Always. Unlimited. Boundless. Timeless. Not limited by time or space or place or personality or history. In fullness, this divine presence becomes all that is, including us. So all of that creativity, all of that good, all of that law of life that brings forward more, that is who we are. That presence, that power outlasts this body, outlasts these experiences, outlasts this bunion. This presence, this power is boundless in me, in us. So I claim in this moment the power of practice. I claim this power of memory. I claim this power of attention, of choice and focus. I claim this power for good in my own life and for all of us in life, not only here, but everywhere. This power, this planet glows with this tremendous power, with this energy of creativity, and could shift in an instant. So we add our vibration, our claim of wholeness, our claim of focus on good, our ability to shift attention within ourselves. We claim this activity We allow our own resonance individually and as a group right now to be lifted, to be quickened, to be empowered even more, to send out a wave of love into this room, onto the grounds for all the parents and children and coaches, all those little soccer players, moms and dads, brothers and sisters, grandma and grandpa, aunt and uncle, coaches, pets, birds that happen to be flying by. We exude this love. It flows out into all of Corte Madera, into all of Marin County. And we let the momentum build and continue to bless this planet. We see it glowing in healing love, that everywhere on this planet, a mind needs to be healed, a heart needs to be mended, the earth herself needs an infusion of loving energy, that we are one with it everywhere right now. Right now. And within ourselves and all around us. This power of good is quickening, is enlivening, is lifting, is blessing. We step into this with great gratitude. We claim it for ourselves and each other. We claim it for this planet and for our universe, that this is the truth of being. We move our attention back to that, and with great gratitude, we release this prayer and simply let it be. We let it be. And together we say, and so it is. Please stand and join me for this morning's affirmation. Together, I am entrusted with the creative power of spirit as I use the law to deepen and expand my own consciousness. This power is always for the highest good. I use it in alignment with its nature and mine. I use this power only for more good, and so it is. You may be seated. I want to invite the ushers now to come forward. This is our sacred offering time. If you're here for the first time this morning, your presence here with us is your gift. And we want to bless that gift as well as everything that's being given financially in the room and everything that's been given this week for Golden Gate in the way of prayer, in the way of treasure, in the way of talent, in the way of service. And so we bless the offering. Now, if you're online and you want to give a donation to Golden Gate today, we would love that. You can text the dollar amount you want to give to the number on the screen and then just follow the directions. And as we do this, we're going to bless all of these offerings. Hold your gift in your hands or with a loved one if you're giving it together. And then if you're giving it on your own, just hold it over your heart. And even if you're not giving financially, hold your hands over your heart, because we're blessing the gift that you are as we say this together. This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time. And so it is.
What kind of world do I want to see? What kind of world do I want to leave to my children's children? Now is the time to make up my mind, yeah. What kind of world is this gonna be? What kind of world will be my legacy to the generations for all humankind? It's time to decide what kind of world. Will it be peaceful? Well, am I? Will it be joyful and kind? Will it be all those things a child so easily describes? describes. Oh yeah, will everybody have enough? Will we speak in the language of love? Somehow I'm suspecting it's all up to what you and I decide. What kind of world do we want to have? When will we be ready to start giving back to this precious place? For every young face, tell every boy and girl, what kind of world? Do-do-do-do, whoa, do-do-do-do-do-do. Will it be peaceful? Well, am I? Will it be joyful and kind? Will it be all those things a child so easily describes? Oh yeah, will everybody have enough? Will we speak in the language of love? Somehow I'm suspecting it depends on what you and I decide. What kind of world do we want to have? When will we be ready to start being that for this precious place? For every young face, tell every boy and girl, what kind of world? Oh, 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 tell every boy and girl, yeah, what kind of world? Do 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 do, whoa, oh, do 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 do. Thanks.
So all of us together on behalf of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living accept this offering, and we send it out into the world to create more love everywhere that it goes. And so it is. If you are with us for the very first time this morning, there's an information table behind this set of chairs that has all sorts of little handouts on it. It also has welcome packets. I want to encourage you, pick up a welcome packet, open it up and take out the blue card, fill it out and give it to Galen back there, one of our licensed practitioners. She's back in the back. She's going to take the blue card and give you a little book as our thank you for coming and being with us today. And also, it's an invitation to come back and be with us often. So that little book will remind you that you have a divine appointment here at 10 o'clock on Sunday, anytime you want to keep it, and we hope that you will keep it often. If you're online with us for the first time this morning, you can write to administrator@ggcsl.org and just say, Sunday was my first time online, I would like a copy of Nourishing Thoughts. That's the name of the little book, and we will send it to you. Also, I want to thank everyone that went out of their way to make this a beautiful morning by getting everything set up in the room and up here on the altar this morning. And we want to just also be grateful to the community center for putting out the new carpet out there, which is so lovely and squishy in the lobby. So let's acknowledge everyone that participated and the center here as well. Now, who do we want to see over here? The new music director at the keyboard, having a blast, and all of us having a wonderful time as well. There's more will be revealed about that. It's not, stuff is happening. So hang in there with us, keep envisioning this goodness, and we will see that come into being in all good ways. You know this announcement from these two about their retreat.
Hi there, everybody. My name's Karen Drucker.
I'm Gary Lynn Floyd.
And we are doing a women's retreat together. Yes, it's a women's retreat.
Featuring one dude.
Yes, one dude.
That'd be me.
That'll be him. And we're going to be doing music and just a group process and laughter and great food and walks in nature and all this kind of stuff. And it's going to be at the Nanda Retreat Center. Where is that, Gary?
It is in
Nevada
Nevada
City.
City.
And that's, where is that? About 2 hours outside of Sacramento,
Yeah,
about an hour and a half.
outside of Reno. It's right in the middle.
Easy to get to. And it's going to be October 25th through the 27th. But wait, there's more.
If you'd like to begin your retreat a day early, we're going to have a concert on the 24th in Grass Valley at the Unity of the Gold Country.
There you go. And we're doing that as a little optional thing if you want to come in early, and then you could have, massages at Ananda Village and take walks in nature that day. But then we'll start on Friday night. So this is Friday, October 25th through Sunday the 27th. And it's going to be a small, intimate group. So if you're interested, register early. And what else do I want to say?
I just want to say I did this retreat last year, and it was a phenomenal experience to be the only dude in a retreat of women.
Yes.
I can't wait for this time. It's going to be wonderful.
Lots of music, lots of music. You don't have to know our songs, just come and sing with an open heart. You will be transformed, and you will have a faith lift by the time you're done.
Oh, nice.
So we hope we see you.
We love you.
And you can find out more about that at karendrucker.com if you want to find out more about that retreat. Also, we have our monthly sacred service coming up at the San Francisco Marin County Food Bank. So there's a warehouse in San Rafael where they pack food, and that's basically more or less what the job is. It's 2 hours once a month. That's it. And it's on Tuesday from 12 to 2. If you would like to participate in the November team that's going to be doing that, you want to talk to Ellen Nicosia, and she is the woman with the white hair that's about this long. She's on the ushering team, so you'll see her bringing stuff out in just a minute. Look for Ellen and let her know, or send your information to her via text or voicemail, and she'll get you on that list. Oh, it says email her by October 1st. That's not true. You need to email her by November 2nd, actually. All right. Also, we're back into the time of year where the congregation signs up to provide snacks. In the summer, it's kind of a free-for-all. People just bring it randomly, everybody's involved. But at this time of year, we ask people to sign up for one Sunday a month. This is 4 months from now through January, just once a month. So you may be the second week or the fourth week, and you wouldn't necessarily be the only person bringing snacks either. Sign-ups for that are back on the activity table. And also, I want to let you know that as well as having practitioner available on Sunday for prayer immediately after the service, because this table always has one or more practitioners available for that, on the prayer box where you can put in a written request. There now is also a sign-up sheet over there in case you can't stay, but you would like to have a short prayer from a practitioner like the ones we do after the service. You can have a practitioner telephone you to do that. It's not a full session. It's just a treatment over the phone. And there's a sign-up sheet for that over there if you'd like to have a practitioner call you for that purpose. So we encourage you to take advantage of all the different ways that you can get prayer, because we believe in the power of prayer, in case you didn't get that earlier. So I want to invite the practitioners now to surround the room so that we can pray the end of the service. I know it was long this morning. I guess I had a lot to say. Thank you for hanging in there. So let's come together one more time in consciousness and bless this beautiful day. We know that the divine presence showing up as this wonderful day lives in us. And we are showing up as a wonderful day as well. We're grateful to know this, to claim it, to choose to repeat it in our awareness, allowing it to grow roots and branches and fruit within us, so that everywhere we go, we are a beautiful day happening for all the people around us. We're grateful to be in service in this simple way, to bring a smile, to bring the presence of love that is active and alive in us as that great creative power right now. So with gratitude, we bless the day and send this prayer off into that creative law where it comes into form and being and experience. We are that. Everything we ever believed that was unlike that, we recognize as just a shadow. We let this good go into the law to let it manifest. We are grateful. And together we say, and so it is. Please stand and join us for the closing blessing and song. Now, this is a time when we used to all take hands with each other. And every Science of Mind church sang the same closing song every week together. So whenever we had a conference, we all knew the song. Mostly, there were a few words we did differently. We haven't done that in a long time, and we're not going to sing the peace song today, but perhaps if you feel healthy and the person next to you seems healthy and you feel comfortable, take hands with them as we say this closing blessing together. I now walk together. I now walk so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God. And whoever places a hand in mine is lifted. And whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness. For Spirit and all people and I are one eternally. And so it is. And here's Daniel.
Well, it's been a pleasure to sing for you again, as always. Hope you've enjoyed the songs. Let's close with a song that I sometimes do with you all for an opening.
Usually.
A song called Swing Wide the Doors. You ready to sing it and mean it?
Yeah.
Deep breath, here we go.
Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. I'm not holding it in anymore. I'm gonna shout it out loud. I understand now what I'm here for and what this life is about. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand. About lending a hand. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. One more time. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Thanks for singing. Thanks for having me, and have a great week ahead.